Hello, my name's Rob, this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and today I'm going to show you how I do edge highlighting. Now, edge highlighting, if you don't know what that is the fancy lines you find around all of the Games Workshop models that the heavy metal painters do. To me, it's a technique that's never really made much sense. But it is a very good skill to have, not only to improve line work, but it also does frame a miniature quite nicely. Today I'm going to show you how I get nice sharp edges on armour panels and things like that. I'm also going to show you how I go around certain bits like around the knees and curved surfaces and things like that. So there'll be an element of freehand and there'll be an element of, I guess, cheating as well. I'm also going to show you how to fix any mistakes. But first, what I want to do is I want to talk about brushes. And knowing how a brush works will help us identify why sometimes our lines are a little bit too thick. So here we have a brush, and a brush is made up of really three main points that every artist will do. You're going to have your handle. Right at the end here we have the tip. This is obviously what transfers paint onto our model. The thinner the tip, then the finer the line. Next we have the actual bristles themselves. This is the body or the well of the brush. This is where excess paint is stored and effectively acts as your little reservoir of paint. Next we have the ferrule. Sometimes our brushes splay out and go in funny angles because paint gets in the ferrule and it pushes the bristles outwards. So really we never want to dip our brush fully in all the way to the ferrule because it will ruin our brushes. So that's how a brush works. Now, using what we've kind of just learned, we're going to just use I'm going to use a really bright colour, and I'm just going to show you how I put my layers on my models. Normally I would use a wet palette. Today I'm just going to use a little bit of plastic, like most hobbyists will have. This is just an odd bit of tray that I used in my last video. I make sure I've got some water on hand because we do want to thin our paints. A nicely thinned paint will run from the well to the tip really easily, and you'll get a really nice kind of line, which is what we're going for. Don't worry if not, because once again I am going to show you how to fix that. So here I'm going to use Administratum Grey by Citadel, and the process is always the same here. I'm going to put it on my palette. I'm not going to use a lot. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of water, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm happy with the consistency. I've said it before, people say like milk, but I don't always think that's the case. Here it was a little too runny for my liking, so I've added a little bit more paint just to thicken up the mixture. And what I do is make sure that I've got a nice point on my brush by twisting it on the palette. I'm happy with that. As you can see just there, I've got a really nice sharp point. I'm actually using a Citadel small layer, and all I'm going to do is do some test lines just on my thumb to make sure I'm happy with how the paint's transferring and how fine the line is. Now, there's two ways we can apply edge highlights. The first one is with the side of the brush. It might sound a little strange, but it's a really easy method as long as you've got something nice and sharp or a nice edge. And all I'm going to do is not using the tip, I'm going to use the side of my brush, making sure I'm nice and comfortable with my hands, because the steadier my hands are, the steadier my lines are. I'm just going to run the edge of the brush down the section I want to highlight. And as you can see, it goes on really nice and smooth. You get a really nice consistent line, and it's really easy to control. And that's the first highlight there. As you can see, it just frames that little section. Once again, it's a good technique to have. Definitely worth kind of, if you can, using it. Now, for the more, I guess, hard to reach places, like under the knee here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you how to make or correct a mistake. Now, this can be really easily achieved. So let's say we start off and we've got a nice point and everything's going really, really well. So what I'll do is I'll just make sure that my hands are nice and steady. I've got fairly steady hands anyway, and I'm just going to dress around that kind of knee section, just following it along, and I'm just going to meet up with my highlights. This is all about taking your time and a little bit of patience. What I've done is I've splodged a little bit. My highlight's a little bit too thick, so what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to paint it in a little bit more. I'm going to show you how to fix those mistakes. As we can see, we've got a nice, really chunky highlight there. We don't want that. But there is another way of highlighting, and that's doing it in reverse. Rather than always trying to paint a really thin line, if you know that in actual fact maybe you've got unsteady hands, or maybe your brushwork isn't where you want it to be at the moment, what you can do is go back to your base colour. We'll just mix it down with a little bit of water to make sure it's nice and smooth. Here I used Macragge Blue from Citadel. The model's coloured in Macragge Blue, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way backwards to actually make the line thinner again. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my time, rather than repainting the whole thing, just do it so I'm actually reducing the thickness of the highlight. And that's it. A good tip, if you are using sprays, sometimes there's a little bit of colour difference. I would always recommend, with your thin paint, paint the whole area again. This will just avoid any inconsistencies, especially if you're going to put on washes or shades, or you already have done on sections. It's easier to replace one section than it is, a whole model, or go for all your work again. So there we go. It's an easy cheat. A lot of people don't seem to realise that. Now, for freehand highlights, you'll see there's a lot on Space Marine shoulders. I make sure I've got a nice tip, my hands are steady, and I just run my brush in one motion down. It's a little bit wonky here, I must apologise. The light was in the way. It's quite hard to see what I'm doing. But all I'm doing is I'm just taking my time with the highlight, making sure that it goes on nice and straight, that it's, a nice fine highlight. Highlights become a second nature, especially ones like this. It becomes like riding a bike. The more you do and the more practice you get, especially with painting repetitive models like Space Marines, it almost becomes, like muscle memory. This is how I did that one. It was exactly the same process, and that's it. Practice makes perfect. I hope you've learned something from this. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.